I'm going to talk to you about insurance. So, buckle up.
I love risk transfer.
Yes! You're in the right place. Okay, so real quick, hi, I'm Justin. I work at a company called Policygenius, which I'll get to in a second. But today I wanted to talk about what we've shaped in terms of our company and what it means to the designers on our team. So we're a small team, about 5 designers, product design shop. Our product team's about 40 people and growing. We just moved into a nice new office in Flatiron, and we're going to be doubling this year to about 300 people. So obviously I'm hiring. Hi. Designers to the front, how we build at Policygenius. So you guys may have seen these around on the subway or elsewhere, hopefully, if our marketing team's doing their job. And this gets to kind of the top of the funnel value prop for what we do, which is around comparison. We're a little bit the kayak of insurance. We're a lot of other things, but that's what these ads speak to. At our core, we're helping people feel good about getting the financial protection they need. Okay, so what does that actually mean? We're a multi-product marketplace. All these are super exciting insurance products available for you at your fingertips. But what does the actual value translate to? So when I think about my family or friends coming to a place where they know nothing about what they need to patch their safety net, spotting the holes, and then being able to actually patch the holes. That's what we do. Also, we've done it a lot. So lots of shoppers, many billions in coverage placed, some good reviews, and I think NPS, if you're familiar with it, Net Promoter Score, super, super proud of this. This is the metric that we put on a pedestal. Insurance industry, surprise, is around 30. Amazon, I think, is at 65. Apple, I think, also hovering around the 60s. So the people that we have are the drivers of this. We're very proud to hire super smart people. Speaking of values, no chuckleheads is one of our values. We try to weed out all the jerks. Somehow I made it through, but these guys are great. So having people to hit those goals that are as passionate about what we do as the founders and myself, and spoiler alert, bringing designers to the front. So what does that actually mean? Here's a designer at the front. All of these people, presumably engineers, product people, motion designers, definitely not what I'm referring to clearly, right? So what do I actually mean? So business happiness scale. This is a fake metric I made up a few minutes before coming here around actually having a healthy business that's growing. Surprise, it also happens to align with designer happiness scale, another fake metric I made up before coming. You've seen a lot in the news, hopefully around McKinsey or random consulting firms coming up with the fact that most of the Fortune 500 that are top performing do so because they closely align with the tenets of being a design thinking organization, right? So happy designers actually tends to lead to happier businesses. This isn't just a surprise. It's not profound. But what is designer happiness? So I Slack polled my team today and said, hey guys, hopefully you're happy here. P.S. let me know if you're not. And what does that look like? And it boils down to these things. Feeling valued, feeling empowered, and feeling challenged. So to us, this is what it means to put design at the front. So what does that mean tangibly? So getting to feeling valued, being a design-driven company. Woo, this term is really loaded. It's also kind of ambiguous. So what does it mean? There's tons of writing about it, yada, yada, yada. It boils down to these things. Focusing on user empathy, a culture of testing and iteration, cross-functional collaboration, and emphasis on moving quickly. All of those things, that's design thinking inside of an organization. Also, on the feeling empowered piece, nimble, collaborative teams. At this point, you guys are probably familiar with the Spotify model. It's a little pod of cross-functional members. If it's a designer, a tech lead, and a product manager, and usually other supporting software engineers. Popularized by them, Jeff Bezos has called it, kind of the 2-pizza model. Your team should never be bigger than you can feed with 2 pizzas. Not a huge fan of Jeff Bezos, but I like that idea. So why do we do that? It's not just to keep it small, right? Being small actually helps designers step to the front and feel empowered because we're giving them the tools they need to feel like they're autonomous and they can make decisions. As a leadership team, we're only saying, hey guys, here are the goals, figure the rest out. That's essentially what we do, right? And this is what this illustration is getting to. So small, nimble teams that can move quickly, that also know that their responsibility is to come up with the hard thinking. Feeling empowered, designers as leaders. Probably a lot of us in this room, that's not the most profound idea. I like to refer to it as the Triforce, if there's any Zelda nerds in the room. So design, product, and engineering working really closely together. That's per the Spotify model that I mentioned earlier. But here at Policygenius, because we do something called dual track agile, which I'll get to in a second, the design lead, the product lead, and the engineering lead actually act as one decision-making unit. So they decide, what are we going to test? What's the approach? What does the roadmap look like? They're sitting in on user tests together. It's not a siloed over-the-wall kind of thing. They're working really closely together. When I want to know what's going on a project, I can go to any one of these leads and I'll get an accurate picture. So here's actual people. Natalie, who is our longest serving designer, this team's amazing. But these guys are the ones that are working really closely together. We actually have built our own internal CRM, which powers our workforce. These guys are in charge of that. Feeling challenged, right? That was the third piece. So broadening design's role. So I mentioned dual track agile. Here's a kind of useless illustration that gets to some of the core tenets. So we have 2 tracks. You're probably familiar with the agile delivery track, very common, designed by engineers, for engineers, maybe not so great at integrating design. So what does it mean for designers? There's another track, the discovery track, which tackles the risks on the left. So value, usability, feasibility, viability. The designer's job, I think probably 60% of what a designer does at Policygenius, is to actually build tests, rapidly prototype, figure out what do we need to learn by the end of the week to smash the boulders that are in front of us between us and this goal. We have an entire backlog that's just their responsibility for those tests and for those learnings. So value, that's the hardest thing to test. Usability, both the domain of the designer. Feasibility, that's on the engineering, to do DDs on the technical piece, and viability is on the business side, usually legal concerns. So what are they de-risking? These things as I just walked through. And another thing on feeling challenged, so part of the work that you're doing on the team is stacking up to some kind of metric. We obviously use something like OKRs or a variation on that. But there's a couple other things that actually make people feel challenged. So we're measuring the problem solved, not feature shipped. It isn't, here's 20 things that we decided are smart to build, of course, or useful. It's, what are the highest impact things that we can build that will actually solve the problem? Because we're a startup and we want to savagely prioritize what we're building. Speed to testable idea. So this is huge for designers. When I'm having my one-on-one with the team, we're always talking about this. I love the ideas that you have. How quickly can we get this up and running and actually get a read on this, whether it's qualitative or quantitative? Also, maybe one of you guys can help me with this animal. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's not an aardvark. I don't know what it is. It's playing Connect 4, which is probably more important. Strength of synthesis and reconciliation, which is around, okay, we're doing all this testing, great. But we might actually have conflicting ideas of what our user needs or wants. How do we reconcile that and go forward with one unified picture that all of the teams understand and are building towards? All right, that was a lot. I'm talking fast. How am I doing on time?
Pretty good.
Okay, so this is a quick summary of that. So staying design driven, hopefully that term's a little bit less ambiguous for you guys today. Nimble collaborative teams, not just small, but also empowered. Designers as leaders, yeah, working really closely with the product lead and the tech lead. Broadening design's role, so it's not just delivering assets or being part of the asset pipeline, it's also leading in discovery and understanding more about our users. And valuing the right metrics, a couple of those things that I outlined. We got a Innovation by Design Award from Fast Company, which is cool for our health flow. This was definitely a joint effort across the teams, and it was a lot around talking to users the way that we talked to them when founders were on the phones, actually like helping people make decisions. The idea of trade-offs, which people often don't talk about when you're helping people make decisions around health insurance, but are of course very relevant. So that was cool to see. So hopefully this stuff all works together to actually make a good product. This is one of those things that signals that, I guess. I think more important to me, my brothers who are total jerks use this health tool to figure out what they're going to provide to their family. So that was a great moment for me. Of course, we're hiring. So email me, talk to me afterwards. Thanks for coming and listening to me talk about insurance. That's it.
going to do a Q&A first.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wondered if anybody had any questions.
If the question is just, can I get alcohol, that's
There we
cool.
go. Yeah.
Sorry.
Affordable Care Act, affordable insurance, how does that relate to Policygenius?
Yeah, so we actually kicked off, so Policygenius is obviously more than health, but on the health side, when we kicked that off, it was partly because of the Affordable Care Act. And basically it created a more level playing field and a more simple way of making decisions because there weren't 10 other really important factors across the policies like, is this going to bankrupt me? That wasn't part of the equation anymore. So we could think of things apples to apples truly, which is what we do. So unfortunately, when we launched the healthcare product, it was in this Trump news cycle. And so all of the good deeds, from my opinion anyway, it's not Policygenius, that's a company, that the Affordable Care Act provided were a little bit swallowed up. So our company would ask us, hey, is the Affordable Care Act going away? We just spent all this time building this product based on this. What does that mean for us? What does that mean for our users? And at the time, the answer was, it's actually better for the company, unfortunately, because it's more profitable, but it's worse for the users if those things were to go away, right? And we'd have to totally rejigger how we think about helping people through this process. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Cool.
End-to-end service, as a designer, like, and also even keeping that customer happiness so high, like, how is that for you as in the team? I think as a designer, you want to be able to control all the process.
That is hard. So there's lots of, we have a huge operation side to what we do because we're not just lead gen, right? We're not just taking your information and then throwing you to somebody who doesn't give two craps. We try to own as much of the process as we can so we can actually make it easier and more efficient and more trustworthy. But we can't, on the design side, own all of that all the time. I've only got 4 other designers. I would love to have 40 other designers and then I could just embed them like little sculptures everywhere in the organization, but that's not how that works. So we have to be smart about what we really champion and push for and what we let happen. Luckily, because we have a no chuckleheads rule and we're pretty strict on hiring, the people who are running the other orgs are right aligned with what we want to, and experience is always at the top. So I haven't spent much time complaining to somebody who's not in my department about what they're doing wrong. They're generally at least 2 steps ahead of me.
So you guys have your own product, which is Policygenius, but then Sage is updating every other people's product as well. Do you guys have any feedback mechanism or some evaluation process of those secondary products that you can use so that they can better package their offerings that you're updating?
It's a great question. So there's 2 things there. One is on evaluating people who can exist on our platform or not. And then also the feedback mechanism for those companies from the data and learnings that we're getting inside Policygenius and how that might shape the future of what they're offering us. So on the first part, we're pretty strict about who can be on the platform. Not everybody. Case in point, pet insurance. Pet insurance as a product when it was first launched was actually, I won't use the word scam, but not great, let's say. And then when we came in to actually try to tackle this, the product had evolved, and it was actually quite helpful. I have a Great Dane, she's 150 pounds. If I didn't have pet insurance, I'd probably be bankrupt. But there were a lot of health insurers, pet insurers that were still in the old mode. And so we had to decide who makes the platform and who doesn't. It's the same thing with any of the products, like life insurance, for example. We don't have every life insurance carrier in the country. We have the ones that have a strong rating, have trustworthy practices as determined by a set of rules that the CEO created, where it was just like 5 of us. And she's pretty strict. So high quality with those guys. In terms of giving feedback to them, I would say they pay people a lot of money to figure those things out. What's cool is as we've grown and gotten more volume, when we were raising a seed round, it was like hard to get punched in the face. Now we have enough volume, the insurers are coming to us and saying, okay, how can we make this better, right? And so it could be things like, I'm 2 husbands trying to get life insurance. Why does it have to be 2 completely separate processes and 2 completely separate policies? Why is that so hard? Why isn't there a discount for bundling? Okay, so we can push on that. So because we're scaling, we can push for the things we've known would be smart the entire time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's great.